Irashaimase! Hello and welcome to Fataris' Kitchen. I'm your host, Chef Fataris. It's spooky season once again. Happy Halloween. So on the menu this Shoot 'em Up Saturday, we have Angel at Dusk. What kind of taste will it have? Let's get cooking and find out. From developer Akira Goya, Angel at Dusk released for the PC via Steam in January of 2024. It does have an upcoming Switch port coming in November of 2024, but for today we're looking at the PC version being played on a Steam Deck. This title's been a true surprise for me. I missed its original release, but researching titles to play for Halloween, I came across this one that had a horror, grotesque imagery setting to it, and I thought this one fit perfectly. Then I dove into the game itself, and I would definitely say this is one of the best releases I've played this year. It has such a unique combination of excellently implemented systems that it just plays beautifully. So it's one I can heartily recommend, with the caveat that the game does have grotesque, gory imagery and some partial nudity. So if those are a problem for you, this is a title that's best avoided. But if that's not an issue, then what's on display here is an excellent shoot 'em up with some great value to it. There's a lot of gameplay here in this package. So all that said, let's dive into the game and start exploring it. Finding ourselves at the main menu. Before we get started, I just want to say there is a tutorial here that does an excellent job of explaining the game systems. If you ever have any question about the gameplay, look there, you'll probably find your answer. Under the start menu, we find our game modes. Initially, you only have arcade available. Under arcade, there's story, and then we have our difficulty selection. The top one is the one that's initially there, and then the others are added as you complete the other difficulties. You can see some interesting descriptions of describing the difficulties down below. I do like some of the writing here, it is amusing. Then we have this screen here which explains our loadout. It's static for the arcade mode, but you'll see why this is brought up here once we get to original. And then lastly we have stage select. So if you're playing it for the first time, you'll just be able to select area 1, but you'll be able to select any stages you've reached from this screen. Starting area 1, we dive into the gameplay of Angel at Dusk. So this is a very straightforward vertical scroller as far as your movement is concerned. Unfortunately, there isn't any Tate modes available for this game, but, well, it can't be a perfect shoot 'em up in all ways. So as far as our shooting mechanics are concerned, we have an auto fire, or you could tap your main fire button. But the main fire button is probably best used for your charge shot. So it's interesting in this game, the auto fire is actually your primary means of dealing damage. The charge shot is actually more of a defensive shot, as when you charge up your charge shot and fire it, it will actually cancel out enemy bullets. How well it cancels out enemy bullets are dependent on a couple things. So the harder a bullet is to cancel, the redder its color will be. So these little squiggly brown ones, for example, not a problem. Red shots, though, those might be a bit of an issue. So if your charge shot manages to run into too many bullets that are of the color red, it will ultimately get weaker, turning green and then finally piercing through to do the final amount of damage of what it has left. So that in itself is pretty neat. Especially using it as a charge shot, I can definitely appreciate that. So now we're starting to go and see kind of just some of that horror visuals that this gameplay has. You've got all these enemies that are really grotesque in appearance, full of skeletal and sinew. It's definitely one of those things that is a little unsettling. So the bulk of the gameplay can be explained with what we have all around us on the HUD. So in the top left we have our life. So the game has a hit system where each hit will go and cost us a heart. However, it is possible to replenish those hearts after we've taken a hit by collecting those heart items that we've been seeing from the enemies. In addition to that, there's also a system where we're leveling up. So on the right side of the screen, there's an experience bar and an experience rate. Through those, we'll be leveling up, and it's a pretty neat system. But before we get to that, let's talk a little bit about the bosses. So we're encountering our first boss here. All the enemies, and ourselves included in this game, are angels. So one thing that's really neat about the bosses is you've got all these multiple parts of a boss that if you destroy, you can potentially make the fight easier for yourself. So in this case, you've got those like larger tentacles at the front as well as the skulls on the side. If we destroy those, we'll make things significantly easier for ourselves. In addition to that, we can get the heart items, which will help heal us. And there's also a couple other items that we get for destroying those parts of the boss as well. So I'm using a combination of charge shots here to clear the enemy shots, as well as our auto fire to deal a significant amount of damage. Once the boss is defeated, we do get a little bit of story in that red text down in the main stage, and then we move on to our next stage. So back to talking about the experience. On the right side of the screen, you have a total experience as well as an experience rate. So as we defeat enemies, we get experience up by collecting points, by collecting the heart icons that they've got, as well as these kind of slime-like items and skull medals. All those add up for our experience, and the amount that those count towards our experience is based off the experience rate. Should you take a hit, that experience rate will drop by 10%. It does recover over time, but it does take a bit of time to do so, so you do have to be careful about that. When you get hit, which we just did there is also a brief moment where things slow down and the bullets that are immediately around you are cancelled for the moment, so it does give you a decent bit of respite to recover. So one of the biggest ways to level up are those skull medals that larger enemies will drop. They start out as small single skull gray skulls, and then they can advance all the way to the ×8 one, which are those larger red flaming skeletons that you see there. And that's displayed in the bottom left of the screen when you're playing story mode. It's not there in the original mode, and we'll get to why in just a second. So the other indicator on the left side of the screen is our charge shot indicator, and that just shows you where your charge is for your charge shot, as you can release that prematurely, it just won't be as powerful. There's also a brief cooldown after you fire your charge shot before you can fire another one. And that's kind of the basics of the story mode. So we move through the 5 stages here, and as you can see, like both in the enemies themselves that we're fighting right now and the background, things really are like very grotesque in a horror way. I feel like for the season, it's very, very appropriate. So as much as I've enjoyed the arcade mode, the original mode is where the real meat of the game is. Selecting here, we are taken into this menu, and you see there's some extra options in addition to story. So the weapon settings are one of the funnest parts of the game. As you play through stages in Chronicle, you'll collect weapons, and these weapons are highlighted here. The further you get through the Chronicles map, and I'll show you what that means in just a second, the higher the level of these weapons are. And there's different types, like a double flamethrower, which is what we have equipped right now. You'll have piercing shots, you'll have missiles. Not just this though, you also have different charge shots. So I'm trying something new for this particular playthrough, where I'm using this twin lightning bolt attack. And then also there's a bomb attack, and for this one I've got this really powerful beam that's equipped. All of this adds for some really fun, unique gameplay that you can continually power up the further you play. In addition to all of that, we also have this upgrade screen where you can put points into additional life, additional shield, so having more invulnerability after you take a hit, attract, so you can attract items to you from a further range, recover, just a whole bunch of options to improve your run. However, this does come at a cost. If you choose to use these upgrades, you'll be decreasing your experience efficiency on those runs. So instead of 100% efficiency for your experience, you'll only be getting, say, and right now with what I have turned on, just 91%. So those weapons and upgrades can be used in both story mode, like we were just showing a second ago, or Chronicle, which is where the game truly shines. So here we've got this map that's kind of very Darius-esque. You've got these branching paths all the way through, and sometimes you'll come across these skulls, which are basically terminus. This is where you'll get an actual ending for completing that particular stage, but it actually goes on quite a bit, and especially as you get towards the top, these stages get quite difficult even if you're very powered up. Initially you won't be able to get that far just because a level 1 weapon is only going to carry you so far. And we can see we've got all these stats on the right for everything that we've gained by equipping the weapons we have. So starting on stage 1, things are actually going to be very easy right off the bat, but admittedly, I would recommend starting further down as you want the ability to upgrade. So here I've got a double flamethrower equipped just for some nice contrast from what we were seeing in the story mode. And it starts out, well, it's a level 10 double flamethrower, so it's actually very, very strong for this particular stage, but starting through the beginning and going all the way through allows you to further power up your, well, for ourselves as an angel, which is very important because, as I was saying, things get quite difficult the further you get throughout the course of the Chronicle. So if you start on stage 1, you can ultimately get more experience on the earlier stages and be at a higher level by the time you get to the end. So let's talk about what else has changed. So we also have different charge attacks. So in this case, I'm using a charge attack that's this bi-directional lightning bolt. And unlike the charge attack I was using in the story mode, this charge attack apparently just works by holding down the button itself. And it does still have the canceling effects for the charge attack, so we can cancel enemy bullets. Actually, this one is pretty nice. I do like this particular setup. However, one thing that you're not earning as much of when you're using your charge attack is experience and recharge for your bomb attacks, which we can see the indicators in the bottom left. So those indicators there, you can charge up to 3 charges for your bomb itself. And I would definitely recommend saving your bomb for bosses if at all possible, as that will help. It depends on which, really, it does depend on which bomb you pick, as some are like the one we're currently equipped with, which uses a powerful beam. But there's also some that will restore your health. There's some that will generate a big shield around you. There's others that kind of act like a black hole bomb. So there are a ton of options here, and they also can affect your stats. Your healing, the healing by blood, which are those the hearts that we generate as we shoot enemies, the green and blue hearts. Those are actually referred to as blood, so having the ability to recharge more life off of those can really help you regenerate quickly if you do take a hit. So the first boss here is actually very easy with our equipment, and we can talk about one of the other elements that I haven't mentioned. But when you defeat a boss in this mode, if there's a branching path after the stage, you have 5 seconds to choose either the left path or the right path. You can see both on the left in that map where we're going, as well as on the screen itself. I do really appreciate the way that that's highlighted. So there's been a type of item that we've been picking up that I haven't talked about yet in this particular mode. So there are these items which we can see are indicated by green lights. These are the weapons that we can pick up, the ones that you'll ultimately be using to further your runs. So, but they start off, as you're playing in through like the level 1, they do start off at level 1. One of the things that I think is great is those weaker weapons can be consumed for the currency you use for that upgrade shop that I was showing you as well. So there's a lot of really great systems here. A lot of thought has been put into the game itself. And with that, I think that basically brings us to the end of what I've been wanting to tell you about this particular game. It just is full of these really awesome, excellent systems that are so interlocking. As far as the minus flavors are concerned, I don't really have many. The biggest thing is, if you're not a fan of this gory, grotesque imagery or the partial nudity that like some of the enemies have, then that might be a problem for you. But that would kind of come down to an individual basis. That would be the biggest minus flavor I have. As far as the plus flavors are concerned, I just love the overall gameplay. One of the main elements that I didn't mention, but you generate more items, specifically the heart healing items, the closer you are to the enemies that you're fighting. So you do want to engage in close quarters combat. But one of the things that I've loved the most in the Chronicle mode in particular is the leveling. Being able to collect these skull medals, these slimy lipids, the hearts, all of that to level up the effects that you get when you level up, when you feel a health, having that brief moment of invulnerability, all of that. Then the weapon systems, collecting different weapons, seeing what you got after a run, then equipping and trying different things. Like this lightning here, this lightning is awesome. I think it's like great to go and use. It might not be as effective clearing bullets as some other types of shots, but it's really neat to see. And just how many stages are in the Chronicle in general. Just like you saw how large that map was, and there are a lot of paths and nodes that even after several hours of gameplay I still haven't gotten to. So the value in this game is definitely there. And with all that said, this game is definitely one that comes with a hearty recommend from the chef. Definitely one of the best I've tried in 2024 to date. And with that brings us to the end of this week's episode of Shoot 'em Up Saturday. Once again, I do want to say Happy Halloween to all. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope you have a wonderful week, and we look forward to seeing you again next time.